Before Imola, Ayrton Senna told Williams the car felt wrong. He raised it more than once. He put it on the record. They heard him. They modified the steering column under pressure with a weld that was never properly tempered. Then they sent him back out. On lap 7 at Tamburello, that column broke. What was known, what was ignored, and why those warnings never led to the one decision that mattered. Ayrton Senna's voice, low and measured, carried through the pit radio. The steering feels too soft. I can't feel the front tires. He repeated it again and again. In the garage, he signed a page. His handwriting below the typed lines, "Car feels loose at high speed. It requires chassis stiffening." That was March 30th, 1994, after a test at Imola. The words traveled up the chain. Race engineer David Brown sent them to Patrick Head. No engineering change was made before the next race. Senna did not hide his fear. In a press interview 4 weeks before Imola, he said, "I feel the car is alive but unpredictable. The chassis needs more stiffness." On the pit wall, hours before the San Marino Grand Prix, he told the team again, "The car feels wrong. The steering is too soft. The warnings are there, in ink and in voice, each one logged, each one heard." No answer came back, only the sound of engines, a void shh, and the wait for the green light. Williams had ruled Formula One with a different machine. In 1993, their cars ran on active suspension and traction control. The FIA banned both for 1994. The new rulebook left no room for electronics, only springs, dampers, and raw driver skill. The FW16 was born from these limits. It was a car stripped of its old certainty. The active system that once kept the car steady through corners was gone. Now, the chassis flexed and pitched. The rear end snapped loose without warning. Drivers called it nervous. Senna felt it on his first lap. He told the engineers the car was alive in the wrong way. The ban on traction control meant every bit of throttle went straight to the wheels. Power came on hard. Grip vanished in an instant. Williams gave Senna a contract, $1 million per race. Each start was a new gamble. The team tried quick fixes. They adjusted springs and changed ride height, but nothing cured the instability. Underneath, the car remained unpredictable. The pressure to keep up left little time for careful engineering. The machine that once promised safety now asked for trust. Senna knew it was not enough. A page in the Williams file bears Senna's signature. Under the typed lines were his words, "Car feels loose at high speed. Requires chassis stiffening." The date reads March 30th, 1994. The document sits in a chain of custody log. Race engineer David Brown signed it before passing it to Patrick Head. The request moved up the ladder. No engineering change order was issued. The steering column, already a concern, was altered days later. A section was cut and welded to shorten the reach. The job was done in the workshop under time pressure. The formal record, ECO 1994-03, lists a 2-hour heat treatment, half the usual standard. Only one radiograph was taken of the weld. The approval sheet bears Adrian Newey's name. The weld was the weak point. Later, the forensic report would find the fracture started there. The documentation is complete. Each step signed, each shortcut logged. The paper trail ends with silence. The car was sent to Imola as it was. No one stopped it. Friday at Imola, Rubens Barrichello's car left the track and struck the barrier. His Williams flew, rolled, and landed upside down. He was pulled from the wreck with a broken arm and a bloodied face. The paddock fell quiet. Mechanics lowered their heads. The next day, qualifying stopped cold. Roland Ratzenberger's Simtex slid off at Villeneuve. The front wing had broken. He hit the wall at over 300 kilometers per hour. The medical car arrived too late. Ratzenberger died before the hour was out. 12 years had passed since the last Formula One fatality. Now the silence was heavier. Senna walked into the garage with an Austrian flag. He planned to wave it for Ratzenberger if he finished the race. He wept behind the pit wall. He called for a safety meeting with Frank Williams. No meeting happened. The drivers gathered, but no changes were made. The night before the race, Senna's voice was thin. If we don't improve things, someone else will die. Sunday morning, the sky was gray. Senna dressed in silence. Lap 7. Senna's Williams reached 309 kilometers per hour as it swept left toward Tamburello. The telemetry readout showed almost no movement at the wheel, less than 2 degrees of steering. There was no sign of panic, no attempt to brake. The asphalt told the same story. No skid marks, no tire shadow. The car ran straight, as if the steering had gone numb. It crossed the curb, left the track, and struck the concrete barrier head-on. The force tore the right front suspension loose. A wishbone punched through the cockpit and into Senna's helmet. The speed, the silence on the data, the straight line, all fixed in the record. The car did not turn. The driver did not steer. The impact was not a choice. The physical evidence left no room for doubt. The machine behaved as if it could not answer its driver's hands. Afterward, only broken parts and numbers remained to tell what happened in those final seconds. The steering column was cut and welded to fit Senna's reach. That joint became the focus of every lab inquest. Under the microscope, the fracture told its story. The brake ran clean through the weld. The metal at the edge showed a pattern. Tiny river lines, each marking the path of a crack that grew with every lap. Scanning electron microscopes revealed brittle edges and pockets where the heat treatment had not reached. The weld had been tempered for 2 hours, not 4. At the site of failure, the steel was harder and more fragile than it should have been. Stress calculations measured a concentration factor of 2.8, double the safe design. Replica columns made to the same rushed specification broke in the same place under lab load. The evidence was plain. The crack began at the weld and spread outwards. The steering failed first and the car followed. The technical report closed with a single sentence. Fracture. Initiated at the weld. Propagated by fatigue. Completed by overload. There was no mystery left in the metal. The courtroom in Bologna filled with the sound of translated testimony. Frank Williams sat at the defense table. Patrick Head sat beside him. The indictment named them both. Manslaughter by negligence. The charge was sending out a car with a welded steering column that should have been replaced. Prosecutors laid out the evidence. The weld, the fatigue crack, the telemetry showing no steering input, internal memos, signed debriefs. Expert witnesses traced the break in the metal, line by line. The court listened, then hesitated. In 1997, the first verdict fell. Guilty. 8 months suspended. The appeal began. New reports, more tests. The defense argued the weld was not the cause. The prosecution could not prove Williams knew the danger. In 2005, the acquittal came down. The judges wrote that the evidence showed only a possibility, not certainty. No one was held criminally responsible. The record closed. Silence remained. After Imola, the rules changed. Tamburello's long curve was broken up with a chicane in 1995. Gravel traps replaced grass. Barriers were moved back. The FIA ordered every circuit to widen runoff and to slow the fastest corners. Engineers rewrote the standards for cockpit strength. By 2003, the HANS device was no longer optional. Head and neck support became law. In 2018, the Halo arrived. The Halo is a ring of titanium built to keep debris from the driver's head. Each device, each redesign, carried a memory of what had been lost. Data loggers became mandatory, recording every steering input and every crash. The official reports say these changes saved lives, but the record also shows what was left undone. The drivers called for a safety meeting at Imola. The meeting never happened. The silence from that night still hangs over the sport. Senna left McLaren for speed. The rules changed. His warnings echoed before Imola. The car broke where he said it would. Courtrooms filled, then emptied. Safety barriers rose. Still, silence remains in the gap he left. Sometimes, the only answer left is the absence of one.